Welcome to Hidden Narratives. My name is Grant Sagan, and today I'll be joined by my co-host Thomas White. We will also be frequently joined by co-hosts John Sagan and Tyler Sagan. They will be joining us today, though, because they aren't old enough. In order to talk about Batman Begins, which is turning 20 years old this summer, you must be 40 years old to enter. That's not really true, but we'll get to more of Batman later on. Today, it's Batman Begins. And since this is a Star Wars podcast, it's a prequel and unrelated. Enjoy! Batman Begins. Listeners, this is an emergency pod to address the fact that we're 40 years old, and the fact that this movie is 20 is quite alarming. So we're going to start
amazing
there.
that it's taken 20 years for us to finally get on board to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we all had reactions to Batman Begins, Thomas. So we talked a little bit about the cancer that was the movie before Batman and Robin. Batman Forever with Val Kilmer and the nipples was certainly an interesting addition to the canon. Obviously, Michael Keaton's first two were the best prior to this point, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Here's the funny thing about it. Okay, so I'm going to come in from Thomas as a kid, right?
Okay.
So obviously, the first Batman as Thomas as a kid, that's a winner. I mean, you can't do anything about that. That's bar none. Yeah. So Batman Returns comes out. I did not like Batman Returns because I think when it came out, it was like around 1994, 95. I was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And that was not the movie I remember from 1989 that I probably saw on TV at 1992, 1993.
I think it was older. Batman Returns was a little earlier than that, because I remember getting a copy of it for my birthday before we moved to Alabama, which I think was like the summer of 94. So yeah, 93, 92, somewhere in there. But yeah,
so I know Batman was late 80s. It was 80 or 89, something like that. But like that was the one I saw, and that's the one I was expecting, and that's what McDonald's promised me, admittedly.
Well, and the Joker,
they had all those different things.
Yeah, the Joker in that one was a great performance, but it was also very comic-y and cartoony on purpose. So it looked.
But also, like, McDonald's literally said it was going to be the same movie, and then they came out with the freaking Penguin and Catwoman was like trying to fuck Bruce Wayne so hard. And also, might I add, the Penguin was trying to fuck Catwoman so hard.
And he was also
throughout the entirety of that movie.
It was also a Danny DeVito Chekhov's gun, because he would eventually, because in the movie then he, if I recall, just spills blood out of his mouth because a fish he bit or whatever.
That from the end, but that's all I remember too. But I went back and watched it not that long ago.
Yeah.
And that is not the whole part of the movie.
Okay.
That is mostly the end. There's some.
That's fine, but
there is
at some point, Danny DeVito's mouth expels.
He spittles.
And then, however many years later, he does it again in the street with a wine can on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I was like, what a return of a character arc.
I do believe they did that on purpose. Did I tell you that the mother of Charlie on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia
excellent portrayal,
Miss Annette from the Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse show?
What? I don't remember enough of that show to say what with any credibility.
I barely remember Pee Wee.
But Pee Wee,
I watched the documentary on HBO Max.
Yeah.
That's her.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude.
Well, since we are vaguely adjacent to Star Wars at some point on this podcast, the woman that played Marva in Andor was also Aunt Petunia in Harry Potter movies, but that's not really a topic for you. So we'll move along. Hey, back to Batman.
And let's also think if we're staying in space, Lawrence Fishburne was Cowboy Curtis, I think is his name.
Was he in Space Cowboys? Oh no,
Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse.
I was gonna say, I feel like if Lawrence Fishburne had been in Space Cowboys, we would have probably not watched The Matrix.
Also, if you want to do if you want to do a weird ass like a rare movie that would probably be like a cult classic, only like me, you, Philip, and probably Tyler if we convinced him to watch it, and more than likely John too.
Yeah.
We could never get anyone else to watch it, but it's The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai from like the early to mid 80s that starred Jeff Goldblum and a lot of other people you're going to recognize.
That's
it is such a weird movie. And also, it's not just The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. It's The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai and some other shit I can't remember.
Is it a weird movie?
Long of a title.
Is it a weird movie that he is in, or is it a weird movie that is weird because Jeff Goldblum is in it?
It is a weird movie that he is in.
Okay, that's interesting because
that's how
he brings a level of weirdness to anything. It's charismatic.
Lithgow is in it.
Oh
John
my gosh! Yeah, I'm watching that. What was it called? Buckaroo Banzai. All right.
Dude, if you Google that right now, it'll pop right up. Just Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's like finding out Tom Hanks was in Bosom Buddies.
Yeah, it's okay. So when Marvel came out with Avengers, then they did eventually that culminated in Endgame,
Hmm.
and how immediately everyone was like, okay, so Paramount did like their monster universe that failed,
Hmm.
and then DC and Sony did their like DC universe, which failed. And like everyone keeps doing all these different, and like there was even a Mummy universe, which is
Was
weird
there?
as fuck.
Yeah, there's
Who
a
the
mummy ride at
Yeah,
the Universal Studios, and I was like, was this big enough of a movie in the recent
yeah.
past to do
Universal tried
this?
to. That's what they were launching it all, trying to do that. And so it's so really weird that like but it's all just kind of a recreation of what every studio has done since the beginning of all this. Everyone just copies everyone else.
We talked about the preamble with the other Batman movies. So for me, when I heard there was another Batman coming out, having just watched whatever version of order I had watched the Batmans that existed, I was like, okay, the last time there was a good Batman movie was in the mid 90s, and whatever they tried to do after that did not work. Also, what more is there to tell? He's a superhero that flies around sometimes because he uses his gravity and his super capes, but he's really just a guy with a lot of stunt wishes. Tom Cruise in real life, basically, in the superhero world, just diving off of things for no
Glorifying
reason.
rich people. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, glorifying rich people. Who cares about this story? Let's go see Batman Begins, whatever. Walked in expecting to hate the movie, maybe not even finish watching it because I was just like annoyed it was happening. And that was my first lesson in the art of American Hollywood, being very interested in remaking everything they've ever done before. And eventually I will learn to stop complaining about that. But it was not that day. And so I sit down and
Interesting.
I'm like, this is going to be, whoa. I was like, even from the credits, I was like, this is different. Something is different here. Because, it was just like the bats. It was very dark and whispery, but it wasn't cheesy or campy or anything. I was like, hmm. And then obviously with a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, you're commanded by the music to feel certain ways, whether you're aware of it or not. And so by like minute 10, I was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. I don't know that holds up over the long term, but it was definitely a great way to reintroduce Batman to the world and say, here, this is a good version of Batman you can believe in. Because like a regular
Like,
guy doing stuff.
no, no, definitely. You remember how when you saw Brian De Palma's Public Enemies in theaters, but like
Yes.
you didn't see it in theaters first. But you saw the trailers for it,
Yeah.
but it was all in the same sound universe
Wasn't
of
that
Brian
Michael
De
Mann?
Palma, which is that was Brian De Palma
My Public Enemies with
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 Johnny Depp.
Johnny
Isn't that
Depp.
Brian De
Yeah,
Palma?
no, I think that's Michael Mann. There's no way to check or
Okay.
find out, but I think it's Michael Mann. So
There's no such thing as the internet,
at
so
the end of this podcast, whenever we finally do our final episode, we'll resolve that and we'll exchange a dollar. I'm pretty sure it
and
was
it's
Michael
entirely
Mann
possible that
because you're going to talk about the
I'm
sound,
remembering.
and the sound effects that Michael Mann uses are very distinctive because it's the actual sound of the gun firing in the studio. They didn't do anything to muffle it or anything like that.
All right, so Brian De Palma the Scarface guy?
Yeah, he did Scarface.
Okay, so I am more than likely just mixing these two up.
I
So
mean, both
sorry.
great filmmakers. We'll talk about all of their stuff eventually. So yeah,
Yeah, certainly. And I want to make this clear. Very loud gunshots.
definitely true of De Palma. Not afraid to
Um,
blow things up.
no, no, hey man, blow shit up. That's awesome. As a matter of fact, most of 70s and 80s and 90s cinema was literally just making things explode more and more until eventually we all just came in our pants and went, God, that was the biggest explosion I've ever seen.
We'll get to why that's true, but George Lucas would like to say you're welcome.
George, we fucking know, man. Stop.
Hey, he did
$2 billion, go away.
$4 billion.
Just go away.
Oh, he's gone, man.
Yeah, I
He's
also, by the
sitting
way,
back.
Disney, fuck y'all too.
Yeah, for different reasons that have nothing to do with Star Wars. But yeah, so Batman.
No, it does have to do with Star Wars. I am literally saying that because of Star Wars.
Oh,
Fuck you, Disney.
we'll get to that then.
They've ruined every movie that was Star Wars except for Rogue One. Technically, The Force Awakens, because I liked it because it was new. So I'm going to give them that. What's in another movie?
The Last Jedi.
No. No. Will not give you that.
I'm just listing the ones that are left you didn't name. Did you see Solo?
No. And by all accounts, I don't think anyone wants me to or needs me to.
There's no reason to watch it. There's no reason not to watch it. That's pretty much how I came away
All
from
right.
it.
So Tony Gilroy, only guy who knows how to do Star
Yeah.
Wars. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, so yes, he is, and I'm willing to make the thesis, please, I'm going to state the thesis that his version of Star Wars was so good that it fundamentally shifted the way I view all of the rest of the universe, regardless of how good it actually was on a cinematic or filmmaking level. Because of the information that we now have and the emotional impact that it had, it now resonates throughout the rest of the universe in a way that makes all of it more interesting, regardless of how bad it was in theaters. But to your point, uh, I liked The Force Awakens. I actually watched that last night because it's just next on my rotation of consuming the universe because, I had to stop watching Andor at some point. And
Yeah, dude, I'm going back and trying to rewatch stuff too. So just
it's
like to get
fun.
back,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
And
it's not bad, but there are parts, and I'm like, this is grating.
I mean, the fact is, well, let's set aside the sequel trilogies that have come out as Disney's version of their Skywalker saga. Let's just go back to
I
the.
like the prequels more than I like the new
Oh,
ones.
definitely. And
That's how
let's
bad
just
it
stay
is.
in the George Lucas genre for the moment, when he was
Mhm.
still involved. And yeah, even the stuff that he made, there's moments where it's like, but
Shoot me.
George Lucas would be the first person to tell you, I'm not a good writer. I have all these visions
Nor a
and
good
ideas.
director. He actually apparently
Yeah,
knows that
no, it was
too.
like a total shit show making Star Wars. The
Yeah.
documentary on the lights and magic people is fascinating, and those guys were unheralded geniuses. But
Well,
they
he
all had
only directed
ADHD
Star Wars.
too.
He didn't do Empire or Return of the Jedi. He did not direct those. It took me so long to learn that.
What do you mean he didn't direct them? Like he wasn't the
He
only
did
guy on
not
the ground?
direct them. No, he produced them.
This is this is another thing about Hollywood that I always found confusing. Apart from the economics of it, what the fuck is the difference between producing and directing, and why are sometimes both people on the same thing? Why are something I know there's a way to
Well,
find
the
that out, and
most
I'll do that too.
important thing is, okay. No one is okay. There will be like 9 people, probably in the state of Alabama, 9,000 nationwide, who will get this quote.
Okay.
But there is a episode of documentary now where he's talking to a fake producer named Jerry Weiler or Jerry something or other. I don't remember his name. Doesn't really fucking matter. Anyways, and they said, what exact? Okay, so he was talking to an actor and he was a producer. And the actor was looking at him. He goes, Jerry, what exactly is it that a producer does? Because an actor acts, a director directs, and a producer does what? And he says to me, he says, well, I'll tell you what I do, man. I'm the guy who keeps the money guys hard without getting you fucked.
Yeah, but
And I don't know exactly what that means, but I feel like that's what they've been living off of for 80 years. And in actuality, I don't know what they do, just money, I think.
yeah, that's definitely the answer. We're 40 years old now. We're looking back at Batman Begins 20 years later. We can't remember how to finish the sentence, so obviously this is going to take us a while. It turns out Liam Neeson has new names in this movie. He's not just Liam Neeson. And I don't remember what it was, but it's like Ducarn or Ducart or something like that. And
Are you talking about in Batman Begins?
mhm.
Oh, he's Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, but he's in when he first introduces himself to Batman, he's Ducart or something else. But
Oh no! When he first introduced himself to Batman, he's like, "Okay, so this guy who's clearly a part of an Asian community of rebels and assassin, he's Asian." And then he's like, "My name is a normal Englishman's name." And then like about 30, nah, no, we'll say about 15 minutes later, he's like, "Turns out white people are in control of this Asian gang." So we took that away from him.
Ra's al Ghul apparently was in charge of that prison that Batman
Mm.
had put himself in.
There can be no evil or good in this world if not white people are doing it.
That's true. And even to that
That
point,
that's
Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, wants to rough it up so he can figure out how to understand crime better. So he goes and makes the lives of presumably slave workers in this prison camp even worse by beating the shit out of them just for the fun of it, so he can learn how to fight better. But that's probably a Karate Kid was the bad guy take, and so I'm not trying to pull that thread, but we could probably talk about that
well,
too.
the Karate Kid was the bad
Yeah, I
guy.
mean, like what those kids, what that kid do wrong?
I don't believe that at all.
No, and I don't believe that.
I have no idea where that even came. What? Why would the Karate Kid be the bad guy?
It's a joke from How I Met Your Mother, where Barney Stinson's character is of the mind that the kid that played the Cobra Kai one was the actual hero. And he's like, he's just trying to go to his dojo and learn karate, and this asshole shows up, and he's like crane kicking him, and it's not fair. And it's like interesting take. I haven't looked at it from that perspective.
Well, there was some obvious cheating he's overlooking.
Yeah, right. I mean, it
Yeah.
was definitely like pretending you didn't know about the fascism to say that they were really just patriots. Anyway,
God, it is sad. Like everything's fascism, isn't
yeah. Well,
it? Oh,
honestly, yeah, it always has been. It's that or not fascism, and those are really the only two choices. And of course, everybody wants to be like, oh, well, communism, also fascism. I'm sorry, it's just the same thing. It's just
well,
labeled
it
differently.
devolves into it. It
Yeah,
always
because it's
has.
always going to lead to a leader at the top, and that's anyway. That's not Batman at all. That's
Well, it
not even
always leads to
movies.
authoritarianism. So, like, one person gets to Okay, too much central. Here's the rule, and we can just be done with it. Too much centralized power in one given area leads to corruption and/or authoritarianism. That's it.
And we on this podcast do not support authoritarianism.
Let's talk about Scarecrow.
So let's
Did
settle
you
this.
did you did you think Scarecrow was going to be the bad guy whenever you first like heard of a new Batman movie? Because I think they did let it out in the trailer. I think I'm not positive. They may have just focused on what's his name, the British guy, whose name I cannot recall at this moment, who's an
Michael Caine.
outstanding actor.
My name is
No,
Michael
not
Caine.
Michael Caine. No, the bad
Oh,
guy.
Cillian
No,
Murphy.
the one who played the. No, no. Okay, there are a lot of British people. I did not narrow that down.
Not at all.
The older fellow, the older fellow who plays,
Oh,
I think,
Falcone.
Falcone.
Falcone. Yeah, I don't know his name, but yes,
Yeah.
he's great.
Oh my God, he's won so many Academy Awards. He was in Michael Clayton.
I know he's
He's the
great.
opening scene of Michael
He's a
Clayton.
Gilroy acolyte. Hold on, let me look. That's worth looking it up because this is important to this podcast. Tom Wilkinson, who played Carmine Falcone.
Tom Wilkinson. God damn it! How could I forget Tom fucking Wilkinson?
The story was Nolanish at this point because you don't really know what's going on. It's
Yeah.
weird that Batman has come back as kind of a bitchy teenager and wanted to kill the obvious. I mean, it was fair to want to kill the guy that killed your parents for sure. I don't love
Yeah,
Rachel
I
Weisz's
think we can all get
performance
there.
in many of the things she's in, but I definitely didn't like her in this, and I liked Maggie Gyllenhaal even less. But that's a different equation altogether. So I didn't love the leading ladies in this particular iteration of the Batmans, but they're not particularly important, other than the way it drives his motivations later. But their contributions to the
Okay,
film
I,
could be
I
left out.
I'd like to touch in on that. I'd like to touch in on that
Okay.
because there has been a lot of critiques associated with Batman and how always the women characters are just like literally just damsels in distress. Of course, unless they are Catwoman and/or a villain who also, might I add, always ends up in distress. And I want to make this clear. Yep,
Yeah, but another thing,
that's just the story. I don't know what else to tell anyone. I don't find that to be like all that rude.
and
I'm
that's just
sorry.
the
It's
way
just that's the
Batman the
story.
story is. That's not a
Yeah,
failure
I mean
of
that,
this
that
movie
that's
or any
the
of the other ones.
comic.
Right. But I mean,
We're a young society, man. What do you think men were always writing about?
uh,
Why were there no women comics back then? It wasn't because they weren't talented. It was because they weren't allowed.
right,
You know why? Because the society they were writing these stories in.
right. Now, to us, we grew up. Kim Basinger is the leading lady in the original Batman, so it would be weird to
I'm
us.
I'm I'm serious. I'm sitting here Sigourney Weaver, man. What are you talking about?
What about her? She wasn't in the Batman.
She was an alien in Aliens, dude.
Yes, but she wasn't in any of the Batmans.
No, but I'm talking about like
Oh, I
female
thought you
characters,
meant
or
in the
like
Batman
revolutionary.
universe that the
No, I was
typical
talking about
damsel in distress.
revolutionary female characters that we grew up like loving.
Okay,
Dude.
Bruce Wayne, because pretty quickly he gets kicked around pretty hard. I mean, he's kicked out of a building after getting zapped with the fear dose of. Is it Cillian or Killian Murphy? Can we settle that?
Now here is interesting. It is Killian.
Okay.
Now, you will hear so many references to Cillian.
Mhm.
Now, the only reason Killian is correct is because I've heard him say his name.
Okay, that's the fact then. No other reason to
Yeah.
think otherwise.
Here's the thing about the Scarecrow that I loved so much. Did you ever watch the Batman animated series?
Hell yeah, we did. Now, that is an
Mhm.
excellent segue into the Scarecrow because I vaguely remember him in the show now that you mention it, but I probably was not thinking about anything lore related when the movie came out because I didn't have
One of
expectations.
one of the scariest characters on that show. Now, Clayface was the one that I really like. He always showed up a lot, and like Joker was good. And by the way, voiced by Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He also, I think, did the Riddler on that show, but he did a lot of voiceover acting. But I know he did the Joker. But like Clayface and all that, but like the Scarecrow ones, those episodes that I can recall, because his face was also animated to where the mask would actually like do his mouth and all that, and it was like a jagged, like almost like a jack o' lantern thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like as a kid, like that was pretty
I'm not
daunting.
looking at
As
that
like
if I
that
don't
was a
have to.
4 p.m. in the afternoon. I just got home from school, watched the Animaniacs. Now Batman's like
And now
scaring the shit
I'm
out of
gonna
me.
have night terrors because yeah.
Dude, seriously, it was kind of
Yeah.
a weird
No,
program
it's
to
a
be on at
very
4
dark
p.m.
show. That's one of my favorite things
Yeah,
about it in
dude.
retrospect. At the time, it didn't register to me as dark or light. It was just a show about Batman. It was cool. We had some other shows we
Yeah.
watched that were kind of dark in nature too. Rin Tin Tin with the dog and the guy, the pirate.
Canine Cop.
Is that what we call it? Yeah, it might have been Tin Tin, Canine Cop, or something like that.
Rin Tin.
It was
No,
not.
you're
It
thinking of
was
Tintin.
not a
The Adventures
racist.
of Tintin.
Yeah, it was not a racist trope or anything. It was just a show about a guy and a dog.
I know. I
Yeah,
liked. I liked.
I know there's
Yeah.
something else
What
that's like
does someone think that's racist?
no,
I
but
thought it
there's
was just
something
kind of like a
else.
very wholesome show.
No, there's something else that's named something similar, and it is. I think I don't know. I'll look that up later. But anyway, yeah, we watched that. We watched a show called Reboot that was about like computer programs at risk of being deleted and constantly having to fight off viruses and stuff. Like everything is always a struggle against oppression. Like everything is.
Well,
And
well,
even
that's the human
Batman, even though
experience.
it's a
That is actually
local,
the that is the experience of humans, and
right,
not only humans, but just animals.
right. But the point of that, I'm stating the obvious fact that everything about our art is a reflection of the human experience. What cracks me up and frustrates me at times is when people are like, keep politics out of whatever, Star Wars, or keep politics out of sports, or keep politics out of. No, no. Politics are humans exchanging ideas, and that's part of everything we do, including sports and art. And so we're going to keep politics in it because it's the only way to talk about anything in a full context. So that's what we'll do.
Could someone do me a favor and like define what they think the normal modern day definition of politics is? Now, and I'm not saying like someone's a political figure. I'm saying like what they think constitutes political speech.
Yeah, or anytime you identify with the Empire first thing out of the gate, I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me who you are. I'm going to believe you.
Well, I mean, think about Ra's al Ghul. Think about Scarecrow. And what were they trying to do? They were trying to purge out all the
Corruption.
necessary baddies, as it were.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the necessary baddies in this horrible city, and literally murder them, so they could start over fresh. What was that fresh bloodline they were looking for? Because they all look pretty similar to me.
Yeah, I don't think they stated overtly in the movie, but whatever they were is what they were going to replace Gotham with. Yeah. And that was
You
the
know,
plan of Ra's al Ghul throughout the history of it, apparently. Just wipe Gotham out, which is apparently this Atlantis of America somewhere that is also Chicago or Pittsburgh, depending on the
it's
movie.
always Chicago.
Until it's Pittsburgh for the movie, the third movie, and then it's like, oh, hey, that's the Pirates football. Or that's the Steelers stadium, isn't it? Is that was that that's a real football play? Anyway, that we'll get to the third
Oh shit,
movie
was
on a
that
different
real?
time.
I didn't know that.
Heinz
That's
Ward. It
crazy.
was Heinz Ward. Yeah, he played for the
Heinz
Steelers.
Ward, really?
Yeah, he's the guy that runs the ball
Huh.
back in the third movie. We'll talk about the third movie because, Thomas, this is breaking news. I think this will be the first thing we ever fully outright disagree on. I
I
liked
doubt it.
The Dark Knight Rises quite a bit. It wasn't as good as the other two, but it was a good movie.
Explain your context.
It involved a lot of very dark and dangerous action. Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, and I think that's enough.
Nope, nope, nope. Not a part of the movie. Nope, nope. Don't do that.
She was not a part of the
Nope. Are
movie.
you about to say because she's hot? Is
No,
that what you're doing
she's
the
really
Tyler
good
thing?
as Catwoman, but Catwoman was, like you said,
Oh,
finally a female character that wasn't just bitching at him the entire time about his choice making. She was like, how can I help? Actually, she was a little bit more like, how can I make your life harder by doing the same thing you're doing? But once she finally came around, she was like, all right, I'll drive the bike and you do the flying around and kill the other chick. She's the worst. And then, unfortunately, Marie Cotillard had a terrible death scene, but she has admitted that she even regrets how
well,
bad that
what are you
goes.
talking about? She was like, and now,
I'm dead. I
eh,
mean, she should have not even been that conscious. She was impaled by a truck, but I digress.
and
Because
you are not taking into account any of the structure of the movie.
yeah, we can take into structural issues, but they all have structural issues because of the first thing we talked about. It's a Christopher Nolan movie, and the structure isn't
Well,
really the point. But
you are
that's a
correct on
different
that.
that's a
You
different
know
discussion.
that's a point I actually have a hard time contesting.
How did it
Now that's
feel
interesting.
when you thought he was dead? Because it looked like he should be dead, right? And then, like 5 minutes later, Morgan Freeman's like, what do you mean there's autopilot installed on this motherfucker? And they're like, yeah, it got installed a couple weeks ago by Bruce Wayne. He's like, oh, fuck. And whether he's dead or not, We'll talk about a different thing that's come up in recent years. I call this the
I
sixth
want to
sense
go wait in a
syndrome.
cafe and just see if my butler shows up.
Yeah. Well, he did know where to look because he'd been told. But
It's the same. You got to go have breakfast there every day.
yeah, every day for probably like a year till you get lucky enough for Alfred to
And
show
then
up.
to not say hello? You're going to come over and I'm not going to say hello?
To be fair, the last
Oh,
time,
finally you're here. Goodbye.
to be fair, he was just going to say, I've forgiven you for all the bullshit, but at this point, there's no reason to rehash it all. Let's go our separate ways.
You were my
I'm mostly bragging because I
employee,
showed up here
and
with
I
Catwoman.
treated you like that.
Yeah. And you got insubordinate and told told me some shit you shouldn't have told me, or didn't tell me when you should have told me, or whatever the fuck happened. And so I kicked your ass to the curb. I don't know why you bitch about it now. Also, saved the world again. So thanks a lot, Alfred. You're a big help.
I guess go die, man. I don't know why
I'm a
you're even
billionaire. I
here.
told you from the beginning I'm super fucking selfish.
I mean, your best friend is your hired butler?
Instead of like getting outside help to sweep the legal system that you have crumbling around you, you just start running around doing vigilante justice. It's not really a surprise that he's wanted for crimes by the end of the second movie because, frankly,
Of
his
course
attempt to
not.
reform Gotham is just as bad as Bane's and Ra's al Ghul's. It's like the Jedi. They do a lot of shit throughout the Star Wars universe that is just like, that's really not any better. You know?
He got the DA like fucking turned into Two-Face.
Yeah.
He's got the Joker.
Like one bad day and the DA flips immediately. He's like, you know what? The Joker was right. What? Dude, you got by
You
a
got
smart
Katie
guy.
Holmes looking like Maggie Gyllenhaal. Nothing works.
None of that
It's all
worked.
crazy.
None of them were great when
Oh,
you
yeah,
talk
man.
about structure. So that's why I don't make the third one apologize for that, you know?
Well, that's the weird thing about Christopher Nolan is he tells such a riveting story. It doesn't matter that he tells it kind of wrong.
True. I mean, honestly, his stories make about as much sense as how I've structured the process of building this podcast.
Oppenheimer's a weird fucking movie.
Honestly, I don't know how I feel about Oppenheimer.
Probably his best movie, but
yeah, like that's an interesting point too, and that gets into when we talk about best or good movies. Like, what are we talking about? And there's a lot of ways to.
I thought that was his best editing. I really did.
Yeah,
I thought that movie.
the story
flowed.
did flow. That's a good point. Yeah, that's probably the best thing about Oppenheimer is it's a very
It
expository
was also
film.
still kind of weird because it was in essence a movie about, like, I guess 9 different things that happened in 9 different scenes. And in essence, what occurred was one courtroom drama and one military experience,
Yeah, but
and then
there was
communism.
a lot of scientists having very complicated conversations about what was very clearly top secret information. But then they were going to like fucking meetings of like actual like at the time the Red Scare was a big deal. So like there was a lot
I'm
of
so
things
glad we're
about
talking
that.
about
Like,
this.
what are you doing?
Okay.
Going to this meeting while you're
Okay.
doing that. I understand why they looked at his
Why
clearance.
in the fuck did we care if people were going to communist meetings?
Well, yeah, why did we care is because we're fascist curious, as stated before.
No, it's because we're monkeys. That's
Yeah.
because we're a bunch of fucking monkeys.
Yeah. Like, why did the U.S.
Like,
government care
I
is a different
cannot
question than why did the average American care. But
think about what it was at the end of the 19th century. Like, it was nothing but a bunch of failed governments,
yeah,
with the exception of like the UK, which was already on the decline.
yeah,
The United States was on the incline, but that's what capitalist societies typically do when they're rich in nutrients, and certainly when no one else around them has those. And by nutrients, I don't just mean like minerals. I mean like literally like nutrients, as in like for a society and a colony.
all the things that you need to make human beings live for a long time. Yeah,
timber, gunpowder, and a
rich soil,
desire to expand.
water, right? Yeah.
No, mostly just those 3.
Well, we got those.
Trees,
We got those in
gunpowder, and a
spades.
desire to expand.
Yeah, still doing that.
Well, I haven't quite found a moment in human history that didn't involve most of those things after the Chinese invented gunpowder.
That's a good point too. Because we realized instead of flinging poop, we could fling projectile weaponry at high velocities, and
Well, if you fling poop and it catches on fire afterwards and burns all the kids,
mission accomplished. You've eliminated future soldiers. I mean, yeah, it's just math. We'll do a much funnier version of that discussion in a skit later.
Anyhow, so, whenever you're deciding on family planning, just remember everything's going to go to shit and back, and the world is heating up faster than we're able to stop it.
So, yeah, we talked about Scarecrow. We decided it's Cillian Murphy, but a lot of people say Cillian.
Well, they're wrong.
They're wrong,
So
and I say that with absolute confidence of being willing to check in a few minutes, but not right now. And if I am wrong, I will never admit to that in public or to anyone else. So,
I don't feel a reason to.
um, yeah, so we're good there. And then, yeah, we did talk about the problems of I didn't Katie Holmes's character. I don't know if it was her portrayal or if it's the character of Rachel. Maybe I just don't like that character because I never really felt like they had that much connection. They were childhood friends because I gather her family lived on the grounds or near the billionaire's mansion or whatever. And then he comes back.
It is hard to fall in love with the help, right?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
right. So who knows what kind of power dynamics are at play from the beginning.
I didn't have any help, but I can't imagine if I was a help, anyone would have loved me.
Well, and I'd been such a terrible boss that, it's just like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm not coming to hang out with you,
no, I'm
Bruce.
with you.
you know,
Yeah,
but so I'm never sold that they're in love. So when she is subsequently blown up in the second movie, I'm like, cool, this frees his character up a lot. It didn't because then he just moped about it for a long time and then, ruined his relationship with Alfred because Alfred was like, dude, she was not into you. And it'd been nice if somebody told him that a long time ago. But then again, he might not have been Batman.
I thought the Alfred move of him not telling him was the shittiest move or shittiest part of that entire
It
movie.
was shitty. It was a shitty thing to do.
I do. I'd give you the goddamn note. You better give me the fucking note,
If
Grant.
if you
Like,
if you
what
were
the hell,
clearly
dude?
nose diving into self destruction, and I knew this fact that would change that trajectory even at my own peril, I would probably tell you, be like, dude, she was not coming back,
Yeah,
and you
dude.
can
Don't
hate
worry
me
about it,
for
man.
that, but like these are the facts. Deal with that
That's
as
the
how
thing.
you
That's
feel.
what a friend does. Is you're
Right.
like, I am the bad guy now.
So I totally
It's not
understood
her.
Bruce Wayne's
Because
response to that.
what I would do as a young man in that situation, what you would do as a young man in that situation, and I think that's what most heroes are depicted as, despite their age,
Yeah,
is basically a 19-year-old.
pretty
Am I
much. I
wrong
think
there?
that's where
Yeah.
we all probably have envisioned our best self, somewhere in that range,
Well,
19 to
they're
25.
all emotionally stunted,
Yeah,
and they all act like fucking children when it comes to women.
true. Especially if they don't like sand.
And if they don't like sand, yes, indeed.
Prone to murdering
So,
villages. But anyway, yeah,
well,
no,
I
and
mean, dude, honest to God, like Anakin wasn't wrong. So,
if you don't like the sand and then you show up on a planet where your mother's being held by people that live in the sand and you call them sand people, I understand how you get to that point really quickly. Also, but we'll talk about Padme on another night. Uh, uh,
I feel like this is leading into all. I mean, dude, we're from Alabama, and we both know what everyone says,
yeah.
and you know what I'm talking about.
Wait, what does that have to do with Padme?
No, just the sand part and an
Oh, yeah,
unfortunate
right.
thing that they say after that.
Well, that, yeah, it's a perfect analogy for racism.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fucking
I mean,
awful.
clearly,
Yeah, well, no, yeah,
but
way
yeah.
too much. I
So
hate
I didn't
her,
like Katie Holmes'
dude.
performance, and I'm not sure if that was tainted by that point by her involvement with Tom Cruise's Scientology stint when it was, a lot more forefrontal in his life. I assume he's still a Scientologist, but it's not the only thing I read about anymore. Jump out of it.
I don't think
That's
that
why
man fears
it's
death. I can
either
say
he has
that
a
for
death
him. He
wish,
definitely doesn't fear death.
he either has a death wish, or he's trying to distract us from Scientology. Just I'm gonna look at
Man, this
me
thing, like,
jumping out of a plane.
you could just
That's pretty cool,
you could just
Tom.
not be Scientologist and like not go walk on a plane.
I think just based on the sheer volume of Hollywood actors that have been either associated with or are active members of Scientology, there is clearly an excellent network of money that puts you in positions to do well. And I think that is enough to buy faith for any story, no matter how ridiculous it is. And there's probably zero people in the building that actually believe a word of it because they're there to network and get rich down the road. And then they say other dumb things to make it look like they're really doing it. But I mean, that's what Ron Hubbard
If you
did. So
put
why
an
wouldn't they?
e-reader in front of me right now, I'd be like, all right. And you're like, you're gonna be a movie star. I'm like, I fucking believe in Scientology.
Yeah. No, I will be your most
And people would be like, do you really?
acolyte.
I'd be like, absolutely. And they're like, would you promise? I'd be like, I'll promise. Would you swear on Xenu? Absolutely.
Without question. Bring her to me. Where is it?
Yeah, not even a problem,
Are
man.
we doing a hand up? Are we doing what are we doing?
Will you give
Blood oaths? I'm
60%
in.
of your $20 million earnings to Scientology?
Yes. Without hesitation.
Dude.
And then I'll pay the taxes on what's left. And then I will have several $1 million left. So
You can
no, I
have
do not
65.
cry if your taxes go up and you make billions of dollars. But
You
anyway.
can have 65.
Oh, thanks.
65.
No, I'll take 60.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck,
Yeah,
man. I'm
doesn't
rich at
matter.
that point. Fuck y'all.
I'm John Travolta. You want me to say I'm in Scientology for the rest of my life and do this? Let's do it. Write the check.
I mean, poor John Travolta had to pretend to be straight for all these years, but outside of that, he lived a pretty good life.
But the point I was making about Bruce Wayne and Rachel is that I just didn't believe in their romance. So it didn't have a particularly
No, neither
compelling
did I. I
level
agree.
to the movie. So his motivations feel less intense because it's like, if you're doing all of this for Rachel, like obviously the city's in danger because the Joker's a real menace, or in this case, the first threat is really the worst one. If they'd let the Joker run wild for another 10 years, it would have been
Oh, it
stressful
was.
for a lot of people. And it probably
Yeah.
would have escalated eventually to the point where they had to just like drone strike him or something. But, you could have probably let him flow in the
That's the
underbelly of
real
the
world is we
city.
just drone
Well,
strike.
yeah, nowadays in this particular
Obama would have done that shit
specific,
in
yeah,
2015.
if
Would
they
have
were
been
in the
done.
right place. By the time we get to shit's going down, now I'm sold on the story though because we know that the Cillian Murphy kill. Sorry, should have ever brought it up because I was correct for a long time. Yeah, now I've broken it.
Yeah, it is Killian, but I always say
So
Cillian.
Killian Murphy's portrayal of the Scarecrow, we'll just say Scarecrow from here on out to avoid that problem,
That's a good call.
is
Oppenheimer.
yeah, future Oppenheimer. Also, 28 Days Later, which
Peaky Blinders.
yeah, that too. 28 Days Later is another one.
Peaky fucking
There's going to be
Blinders.
a third 28 Days Later movie coming out soon. It's 28 years later. I don't know if he's involved,
Get the
but
fuck
once
out.
that movie comes out, we'll have a trilogy to talk about, so we can dive back into that because that was a great movie. Originally, 28 Days Later was great.
Oh, dude, 28, or I'm sorry, 28 weeks later, I
I
hated it.
don't remember it. I know I
First
watched
time.
it. Don't remember it.
Fourth time, that's a good movie.
Really? Okay. And that's
Yeah.
the thing I'm gonna do with everything now is I'm like, if it's written well, or if there's something about it I should care about, it's possible to like everything else, or at least forgive it,
It
and it can be
it
enjoyable
stayed of
because
the
that's the
same
point.
vein of it stayed of the same vein of the original movie, but it was not marketed as that.
Okay,
And the first part of that movie was kind of a studio bent of it to me.
interesting.
It's been a while, but like as it continues out, it flushes out or fleshes out rather as like a continuation of 28 Days Later. It really
That's
does. I
awesome.
mean, like I despised it first time I watched it.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching it. I was supposed to be at the pool lifeguarding, but there was someone else covering the same shift, and I don't remember why. But
It's
the manager at the time
awkward how many times that story rings true.
wanted us to like both be there at the same time. But whoever I was with, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go for lunch or whatever." So I went home and I'm watching 28 weeks later. And midway
Yeah.
through it, I get a phone call from the manager like, "Where the hell are you?" I'm like, I went to get some lunch. And I'm about to come back to the pool." They're like, "I didn't say go get lunch. I said stay here." I was like, "Oh, I'll be right back." So I don't know if I might not have even
What
finished it
were they expecting
to show up to work and then stay there for at least a shift. I think.
from teenagers
Well, yeah, fair. I can't remember. I was
with
probably
no
18, maybe
supervision
17.
a
I might have been in the 20s, clubbing close to 20s, but I don't remember when that was. But yeah,
Oh, he lifeguarded longer than David Hasselhoff, admittedly. I mean, like, it was like that man made less of a career decision on Baywatch than we did with Palmore.
yeah. No, I would readily go back to working at Palmore.
I would do it right now, this very moment, and I would do it for less money.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
If I had the same amount of responsibilities, I'd do that for the rest of my
What
life.
was wrong with it, man?
Would
What
not
was the
care.
problem? Name one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. My smoking cigarettes and living outside is great.
When I'm young enough that I'm not going to immediately die of lung cancer or worry about the consequences. Now that I'm old enough to worry about consequences. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
those were the
that's the
days.
horrible thing about
Those were
getting old.
those were the days back when we saw Batman Begins the first time. We were not old enough to drink
Dude,
yet, but we were definitely smoking cigarettes at Palmore, using plastic knives to cut up pizzas in the toaster oven.
not have been old enough to drink, but I sure did. I showed up hungover a lot, so I don't know.
Story that I loved about this movie that it kind of like pulled me back from the brink of just writing it off. Which I mean, we all go through phases with everything. Sometimes I like watching Archer every night, and sometimes I go a year or two without even thinking about it. But sometimes I turn it back on. I'm like, God, this show is funny, and I'm back. And because we can't remember how to finish the sentence we started, obviously I don't remember a lot of the shows I've seen before. So rewatching them again is not a painful experience because it's new again. But
I
with
do think that
Batman,
is
it was like,
probably
you
the
know
reason
what?
why I've only watched like 6 shows like in the last 10 years. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Kate was like, "You're obsessed with Andor." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's because it's the newest show that I've watched."
Okay, dude, if Laura tells me one more time that I'm obsessed with any of the shows I watch, I mean, like, dude, find something new to talk about. I'm watching the same shows. I'm gonna keep doing it.
We have diagnosed ADHD. It's literally unpreventable. I'm not wasting my Adderall on nighttime hours when I could watch television.
I still love the story of the 11th grade AP biology where the grad student couldn't quite figure out why my heart rate was above 115 standing still.
Yeah,
And as I sat there and I was like, it does seem weird.
right. Looking back,
Yeah, I feel like there might have been a clue or two
yeah,
that we missed out on.
I was talking to my mom one time about. I was like, "Mom, did you ever notice that we used to come back in the house a lot for things when we were literally just going outside to play? Like, what'd you forget? My right shoe. What else? My pants. What else? I don't want to go outside." Oh wait, yeah, dude.
Some of that is just us being dudes.
Definitely,
We're not that
absolutely.
bright.
But it was apparently
Yeah.
so much that my mom would talk about it with my grandmother, and they'd be like, "Man, they do that a lot, like more than normal kids do."
Yeah.
Apparently, that was noticeable to them, but it didn't register that it was because it wasn't hyperactivity. Because none of us were hyperactive. We were all, fairly normal,
Well, that
sedate
must have
children,
been
and
nice.
did well in school, like grade wise, because we're not dumb people. We just hell, I don't know. I might have not even had it until I was older because I didn't really start noticing issues with anything until I got to like middle school math. And middle school math is not hard, but suddenly it was like a brick wall. And I used to blame fifth grade not focusing on it much, but they focused on it enough for me to go from fifth grade to sixth grade without going. "Nah." Suddenly I was just like, "Dad, do my homework for me. Do it."
My mom used to just like pack me full of caffeine
Oh,
because it would calm me down.
right.
And so she would send me with thermoses to elementary school with ice in it, with Coca Cola. And then she would pack me an extra thermos so I could have that during nap time. And
Sounds
yeah, that
unforgivable in the
pretty much
modern
summed
era.
it
I mean,
up.
yeah, that sounds like that is the worst parenting ever. She just gave you a cup full of teeth rot so you would calm down. But the fact is,
No, it calmed me
it
down.
did work
It
because
kept
it was
me,
doing the right
yeah.
thing. What you needed was probably a different, more controlled version of that. And not rotting your teeth in
Well,
the
no,
process.
eventually I switched to Mountain Dew. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
No, yeah,
no.
I haven't had a
Well, that
regular
has
soda
more
in
to
a
do with
while.
just like, there,
Well,
I
not
do
good for
enough
you.
stuff that's unhealthy. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll have like a Coke every now and again, just like one, but I haven't had a Mountain Dew in God knows. And I love Mountain Dew, dude.
Oh,
I fucking love Mountain.
um, but I mean, even to that point, like Batman's body is breaking down immediately because he's getting his ass kicked. But at least in the first
See, but
movie,
not in the first one, man.
yeah,
If
at
we're
least in
talking
the
about
first
Batman
movie,
Begins,
he's
that
still
is not
kicking
the
some
case.
ass. Yeah, he hasn't gotten, other than falling down into the tree.
Master Wayne, what's the point of doing all those push-ups if you're not going to be able to push a log off of you whenever it's burning around you?
So that concludes our discussion of Batman Begins. We'll do a more in depth discussion with the whole group once we have everybody together. But at any rate, that's Hidden Narratives. Hope you enjoyed.